Joining me now as he is continuing to have a duel against his brand new gaming chair, my guy Kenny Bets Big. What up, baby?
What's going on, man? Now, it's definitely not brand new, and you'll probably hear it throughout the episode. It may squeak a little, but it's been squeaking. Like I bought this chair probably like 2 years ago, maybe like right around during COVID. Paid a couple $100 for it on Amazon. Sick colors. It's white and black. I was all pumped for it. Since I bought this thing, it's been an absolute piece of shit. I feel like it's gonna break every time. Every time I sit in it, but I don't know if it's the chair or my building skills, but it's all right.
Hey, listen, man. It could be our viral moment where mid conversation your chair just collapses. Oh, that'd be tremendous.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, man, if we go viral at my expense, the expense of my ass or something, whoa, pause, pause. But yeah, you get where I was going.
Yeah, I got you. I got you. Listen, man, I'm excited to talk to you. I'm always excited to talk to you, but this one in particular, because anyone that's been listening the last couple of weeks, they know how important the schedule is. I've been talking about the schedule. We finally got the schedule. And Kenny, I got some interesting notes on every team in the league, bro. We're not going to talk about every team, but there are some teams, their schedule there's a little funkiness in it, right? You got some teams like my team in particular. Kenny, it's pissing me off, dude. Giants got 7 of their first 11 games are on the road, and the opponents are not to be messed with. These are legitimate teams. These are teams that, in my handicap and my outlook, I'm expecting those teams to potentially be in the playoffs. So I'm not excited about the Giants schedule. But with each team, Kenny, you'll list a team, I'll list a team, we'll go back and forth. There's some spots that the schedule makers were kind of mean to some of these teams, bro.
Yeah, what is? Do you know the exact process that goes into making the schedule? What is it like? The third place team from like the NFC East plays all the third place teams from the other conferences. Is that how it works?
Yeah, so your division standing, you'll play that team. So if you finish third in the East, you'll play the third from the West. You'll AFC West, you'll play the third team from the AFC South. And then there are the years where you'll play that entire division, right? Like this year, the AFC
Right.
East, the Jets and Giants are playing each other, so you have those matchups on the schedule too. But for the most part, that's why you'll hear things like, well, now the Jaguars are going to play a first place schedule as opposed to last year they played a fourth place schedule. So now Jacksonville is going to have to play Kansas City in the regular season as opposed to playing the who would it have been 2 years ago? The Broncos, for example, right? So that's why those things really matter because it's a difference of playing Cincinnati, Jacksonville, Kansas City, or you're playing the Pats, Browns, and Texans, right? So, like, that stuff really matters, dude. And I want to start the conversation by mentioning one thing. When you're going to be watching the NFL on any network over the next couple of months, you're going to be hearing strength of schedule, strength of schedule. This team has the hardest schedule based on our strength of schedule. This team has the easiest one based on the strength of schedule. Be very careful with those. Those are very misleading because that metric that they use on the networks, it's all based off a team's win percentage from the year before. The one that I like using, Kenny, and I know you agree with this one, it's basing your schedule for the upcoming season based on what the projected win totals for those teams are. So an example would be, hey, if you're playing the Bucks this year, who they went from 11 and a half wins in 2022, their projection, to now 6.5, obviously because our guy Brady isn't there, Kenny. That's going to be a
Mhm.
massive difference in your strength of schedule rankings. So I just wanted to make that really clear before we dive into these teams, man. And since you're my guy, since you're the guest, is there a team on your mind that you want to know a little bit about their schedule?
Yeah, I mean, I one of my picks for the Super Bowl is the Chargers. So I'm definitely want to go through the Chargers schedule with you. But I'm curious because you being a Giants fan, obviously you alluded to how brutal the Giants like opening schedule is, and the Jets is pretty brutal as well if I remember correctly what their first 6 games is like. Do you remember what like the odds were for the Giants to win that division like before the schedule released and now? Did it change at all or not really?
I don't think that's changed too much. And if you notice, I grabbed my face with the Chargers. It's because they've cost me a lot of money the last 2 years from a future standpoint. So it just brought up some bad memories, Kenny, as you said, the LA Chargers. But when it comes to the
You know what
division,
they say, Nick? You know what they say, Nick? It's the ones, whether it's gambling, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether it's anything in life. 90% of people, man, they just stop when they're that far away, and that could be you in this situation. Like you, the last 2 years, you're all in on the Chargers, and they burn you. Like last year was pretty bad, Justin Herbert blowing that lead to the Jaguars. But if you stop now and the Chargers come out and win the Super Bowl, right? And I was on your show saying I like the Chargers to win the Super Bowl. How pissed off would you be if you didn't bet the Chargers again?
I'd be miserable. But
Yeah.
you know what? It would also be like poetic, right? Like this is what you get for 24 months. You've been at the front of the bandwagon, and now you abort ship when it gets a little rocky. I'm ride or die, Kenny. I'm going down with the ship. So maybe now that you're on the Chargers too.
We'll see if you're ride or die. We'll see what your Charger futures are looking like come September.
In regards to the Giants, they went from 5-1 to 6-1.
That's it.
Yeah, so it moved the dollar.
Wow. And so you said, what were there, like 7 of their first 11 games are on the road?
So I know you mentioned the Chargers, but we're talking about the Giants. Right? So let's just talk about the Giants. From 2022, they had a win total of 7. Now they're at 8.5. Miserable start to the season, bro. 7 of the first 11 games are on the road. You have the game versus the Jets too, which is the matchup that a lot of people are excited for, especially in New York. So you have that in-division matchup. But dude, listen to this road to start. Home Cowboys, finally playing the Cowboys week 1 in New York. Then you got a road game against Arizona. Then you got a road game against the Niners. Home Seattle, at Miami, at Buffalo. Home Commanders, home Jets. Call it a home game. On the road against the Raiders, on the road against the Cowboys, on the road against the Commanders. One of 4 teams in the NFL to have 3 straight road games, Kenny, in the regular season, and then a home game against the Pats. Like, dude, what are we doing, man? It's enough that you have us playing the Eagles on Christmas, and they ruined Christmas for me, Kenny. Now out the gates, the Giants might be like 1-8, and before you know it, like that Christmas game won't even matter.
No, I don't. I mean, the schedule obviously it sounds a little tough, but I thought it was going to be worse. I think I like the Giants a lot this year. I think we talked about it a little bit last week. I think they win that division, and that's why I asked what the odds were like prior to and post that schedule release, because for it to only move a dollar from plus 500 to plus 600 like that is telling you, like, like you said, you like to look at not the strength of schedule from the previous season's projections, but you like to look at it from like this year's like win total projections, right? It's kind of the same thing. Like if the books had that moved like from plus 500 to like plus 900, that's kind of like the books telling you right there, like, yeah, this schedule is probably going to be a little bit more of a problem for the Giants. But the fact that it only moved that much, I don't think it will be that much of a problem for them. I like the Giants a lot this year. I think Danny Dimes, another year in Dable's system, another year at Brian Dable. Like, look at what Josh Allen was when he had Brian Dable versus Josh Allen last year. The conversation about the type of quarterback Josh Allen is coming into this season, drastically different from the one that we were having a year or two ago, right?
There's anyone up there, any football gods, please make that be the case. Dude, I agree with you, right? I think I was being silly with it throughout the regular season. Whenever Josh Allen was struggling a little bit, everyone's like, what's been happening with Josh Allen? What's happening? It's like, I think my guy BD in New York has something to do with it, man. He's not there anymore, and he's making those mistakes. I think Josh Allen, we were talking about it, dude. There was a stretch in the regular season where, what do you throw, like 6 interceptions in a row, like 6 weeks in a row, he threw a red zone interception. A lot of that was Brian Dable, especially when you factor in that Daniel Jones last year protected the football more than ever in his career. So, look, I think that's a big reason why. And there hasn't been a repeat winner in the East since 2002. Philly won it last year. I was big on Philly to win the division and to go to the Super Bowl last year. And I hope the schedule is very shaky, though, for me, man. And to stay in New York, dude, the Jets schedule, Kenny, And this is what we've been talking about. And you swung me on this idea of, yo, don't bet the futures. Wait a couple of weeks. You see the teams. The odds might change. Maybe they fall into a hole and then you can get a better number on them. Dude, the Jets to open the year. Home Buffalo, on the road against Dallas, home New England, which is always going to be wacky. You know Belichick's going to have some funky shit cooked up for them. Then home to the Chiefs, on the road against Denver, and then home to the Eagles. Rodgers is now going to a new team, right? You already have all this hype in there. I'm waiting on the Jets, dude. The Jets right now are plus 250 to win the division. They're 9-1 to win the AFC. They're 14-1 to win the Super Bowl. I think all of those numbers are wrong. You're paying the Rodgers tax. And Kenny, I'm looking at that schedule, bro. They might, after 6 weeks, they might be 2-4. Why not bet them then? And that's what I've been talking about all this time with the Jets. Like, yo, don't bet them at 14-1. That is not the number that they should be. They are more of a 25 to 30-1 team. If you could find 25 or 30-1 odds on the Jets, by all means, take that. That's where I would bet them at. I like their roster a lot. I like Rodgers going there. But for me, I'm waiting and seeing because I think like week 5 or 6, if the Jets are 1-4, maybe I could get a 35-1 on them to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that one. Like if you're betting the Jets now, it's just a total square move. Just looking at the way the prices have adjusted from the news of when they got Rodgers, like the time to bet the Jets was taking the gamble that they were going to get a quarterback and betting them before they got the quarterback. Once you get the quarterback, you've lost a ton of value as far as the numbers are concerned. So yeah, you're right. Looking at that schedule, especially with Rodgers being, like you said, new to the system, totally new team. He's a little bit older in his career. How serious is he going to take this offseason training camp? There's a lot of question marks surrounding Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets. So when he plays a team like the New England Patriots in week 3, had they played in week 12, that's a game I would probably, even as a Patriots fan, I would say, the Jets are a better team. Like I would probably chalk it up as a W for the Jets. But when you're playing a Bill Belichick team in week 3, he's going to scheme the hell out of that game. And it's going to be a lot tougher for a guy like Aaron Rodgers, who is just, recently inserted into that system. So yeah. And then you talk about the Chiefs, the Eagles, like those teams are far and away better than the Jets, in my opinion.
Staying with the Jets, though, bro, one thing, I'm talking about their schedule being difficult out the gates. They have a really interesting spot in the middle of the season. Another place where you can maybe get in on them. They play the Dolphins at home, the Falcons at home, and the Texans at home, all in, Thanksgiving on. And you're looking at the Falcons and the Texans, two dome teams coming to MetLife. MetLife in December sucks. I don't, Kenny, I'm kind of bougie, bro. If you hit me up or you're like, yo, man, I got tickets 50-yard line for the Giants this weekend, bro. You in? And it's December. I'm probably passing on them because it gets cold at MetLife, bro. And I like that advantage that the Jets might have in that situation. 3 straight home games for them. We were talking about the Giants before, how they have 3 straight road games. The Jets are having 3 straight home games. And another interesting thing, dude, with the Jets is the AFC has 9 home games this year. The NFC has 8. But they really have 10 home games, the Jets, bro, because they're playing the Giants and they're the visitors, which it's going to be 50-50. Even though the season ticket holders are going to be the Giants fans, Kenny, there's going to be a lot of gangrene there, bro. So if the Jets could weather that storm in the beginning, I think this is a team that could be really, really sneaky later on in the year.
Yeah, and even looking back to in recent years, the veteran quarterbacks who have kind of left their teams, gone on to new places, mainly Stafford and Tom Brady. Both of those guys, when they went to their new teams, they kind of struggled a little bit early
Yeah.
on. Like I remember the Bucks, they got off to a bad start, and I remember everyone was saying, Tom Brady should have stayed in New England. He should have retired. It was a bad call for Tom Brady to leave." That was when I was hitting the slam in the Bucks futures bets. Same thing with the Rams. I remember preseason, the Rams were the favorite to win the Super Bowl. I got the Rams at like plus 1,500 to win the Super Bowl because I just waited, mid-season after they had like a little bumpy patch. So yeah, same thing with the Jets. I like that. I like the wait and see approach. If you miss out on the Jets, and let's say they start off 6-0 and you miss out on it, it's especially in gambling, you're better off missing out on it than saying like, "Fuck, I shouldn't have bet that." Discipline and just being smart with your money is huge for long-term success. If you're a Jets fan and you just want to throw a couple bucks and you want to have fun with the season, by all means, go for it. But if you're trying to be like smart and go, calculated about how you're putting your money on these games, definitely wait and see it with the Jets.
We got super sidetracked talking about New York because immediately you got me super excited about the Giants. So we completely bypassed your Chargers. Um, One thing that stood out to me when I was looking at the Chargers schedule is, they play the Chiefs on short rest, and then the Chiefs are coming off a long break. So they have 10 or more days coming into that game. The reason why I bring that up is because at some point in the regular season, we're going to hear about Andy Reid off a bye. He's like 24-4 off a bye, right? I even like to factor in this first game of the year where they're playing the Lions. That's essentially a bye, right? Like you're going to have months to prepare for that spot there on Thursday Night Football. Kenny, the thing that upsets me with the Chargers, bro, and I feel like it's deja vu over and over again, you look at their roster top to bottom, they got all pros at so many different levels. They got the quarterback. Now they got the offensive coordinator, which I love because I feel like, man, I've been on Justin Herbert to win the MVP the last couple of years, and I've pivoted off the Chargers. I've pivoted off Herbert, but I think Kellen Moore can unlock a lot of things for Justin Herbert in this offense. My problem with them, bro, is that the depth is abysmal. If like one guy goes down, bro, and it's been like this for so long with the Chargers, one guy goes down, the guy that steps in behind them, it's terrible.
Yeah, I mean, you can say that for a lot of teams, right? You can make that argument for a lot of positions on a lot of teams. You lose your starter, you're kind of thin behind them. But yeah, I like the offensive coordinator. That it's a sneaky move that not a lot of people are talking about. People who are more in the know are it's something that's being discussed, but like you turn on Sports Center, that's not like a big thing that's being talked about. Like how much that offensive coordinator helped elevate Dak Prescott's game, right? When he was with the Cowboys. If he can do that same thing with Justin Herbert, man, the Chargers are scary, especially going out and getting the receiver from TCU, who like you could have made the argument last year if you watched those TCU games. You could make the argument he was the best wide receiver in college football besides Marvin Harrison Jr.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, let's not disrespect Marvin Harrison
Yeah,
Jr. Yeah, he's cold,
he's a
man. He's cold.
problem, bro.
Yeah. At USC this year, it's going to be crazy with him and what's his name, King Caleb. They're going to be crazy to watch this year.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun, man. I know they're already saying that like he would have been the number one wide receiver coming out this year, like no question. And one of the reasons why I'm talking about the depth too, the one thing that I look at also is like injury luck, whether it's like good luck or bad luck. And the Chargers might have had the worst injury luck, dude. Like they lost Bosa, Slater, J.C. Jackson, their big free agent acquisition last year from New England. He gave them nothing. They lost Keenan Allen for a little bit. They lost Mike Williams. Justin Herbert, we thought might have died to cover that +7 on Thursday Night Football early on in the season when he took that hit and he had those busted ribs. We're like, yo, he held it down for the degenerates that took the Chargers and the points that week. But like even he was hurt too. So like this roster was really banged up last year. And you're right, right? Like if you take away the starters off many teams, they're probably going to be bad. But I just think that the way they have their salary cap set up, it's like all these guys I mentioned, with the exception of Herbert, that's like what 50% of their cap. Those six dudes. So and they haven't even paid Eckler. Who knows what's going to happen with him? So the Chargers, it's gonna come down to what it always comes down to with them, man. I think it's gonna be the coaching with Brandon Staley, and they got to stay healthy. If they're healthy, dude, they're a problem for anybody in the league.
Yeah, I like the Chargers because I think they're a good team where you'll have like very good hedge opportunities down the road. You can I don't want to say they're guaranteed to make the playoffs, especially because that division's tough with the Chiefs, the Raiders, and I know you're big on the Broncos. So that division's tough. But even if they get there, I think what are they like plus 2,000, plus 2,500 some sports books to win the Super Bowl? Like if they get into the playoffs, you're just giving yourself so many outs, to kind of cover and guarantee yourself a profit. That's why I like a team like that, as opposed to betting the Eagles or the Chiefs the preseason favorites, because you're not really giving yourself any different ways to maneuver down the line.
No, that's a fair point, dude. That's why some teams, like, even if you think a team like Jacksonville last year was gonna make the playoffs like I did, I didn't do this, but like obviously I'm still learning and I'm picking up new things to put together. Like I should have threw something on them to win the Super Bowl also. They made it to the Final Four, right, in their conference.
Yeah.
And then the hedge opportunity or how some of the sportsbooks apps, they allow you to cash out. That could be something too, where you're looking at it like, yo, they're not really going to beat the Chiefs. Maybe I could cash out this 180 to 1 that they were to win the Super Bowl when they make it to the Final Four. So you're right. That's something that you should look into. If you think like a team like, you know, a team in the NFC that I think is interesting, just from a schedule standpoint, and also just how bad the division is like a team like Carolina, right? Like Carolina, there's a lot of excitement down there. They got the new quarterback. The division is pretty suspect. I'm higher on the Saints than a lot of people. We'll get to the Saints in a little bit. But like Kenny, just hypothetically speaking, right? The Panthers are 70 to 1 to win the Super Bowl. If you think that they could win the division, they'll host a playoff game. Isn't that something that maybe we should do a little sprinkle, like maybe a quarter unit or something? I know people like unit talk, but come playoff time, then you can hedge out of it?
Yeah, I mean, if I say no, it's kind of just like going against what I just kind of said, right? But
Right.
at the same time, the Panthers are not the same situation as the Jaguars last year, because
Without
Bryce
question,
Young,
yeah. But that,
you know what
but
I mean? Like they had the new coach coming in, Peterson, who had already won a Super Bowl, elevated his young quarterback then, right? Coming in with Trevor Lawrence, who the Jaguars were just an absolute dumpster fire under
Urban
what's his
Meyer.
name? Yeah, Urban Meyer. You know what I mean? So it was a little bit different, but like similar to like just from our conversations, like you make the point, the Bears are like, you feel like the Bears are a similar Jaguars team. Like I think the Bears would be a better team to do that with than the Chargers or than the Panthers.
Same odds. You get them at 70 to 1. I think that they could win the division. They could definitely make a play for the division. So yeah, that would be a better example, and one that I would probably lean towards doing, because I've been hyping up Chicago, where I don't really see it with Carolina. A lot of people are excited about Carolina. For me, it's a wait and see. But staying in that division, dude, one thing that jumped out to me as I was looking at the schedule, and this might be the most unique schedule any team has in the NFL this year, Kenny, it's the Saints. Bro, they're going to play the most mid-tier quarterbacks in the NFL. And they're also going to play 13 of their 17 games indoors. And their 3 games that they're playing outdoors, bro, the weather isn't going to be an issue. They're playing Carolina in week 2. They're playing in Green Bay in week 3 in September. And then they're playing in Foxborough week 5. If those 3 games, Kenny, were in December, I'd feel completely different about the Saints. But they're playing 13 of their 17 games indoors. The weather's going to be awesome in those other spots. And then listen to the quarterbacks that they'll be playing this year. Potentially. Ryan Tannehill, Bryce Young, Jordan Love, Baker Mayfield, Mac Jones, C.J. Stroud, Trevor Lawrence. Okay, you got an alpha in there. Anthony Richardson, Justin Fields, Kirk Cousins, Desmond Ridder, Matthew Stafford coming off the injury, and Daniel Jones. Like these are the quarterbacks that the Saints are going to be playing this year, bro. And they're going to have the perfect weather conditions. They're going to have a good quarterback in Carr. They're getting Michael Thomas back. That was something that jumped out to me about the Saints and their schedule.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say I forgot they got Derek Carr, because I was about to say, dude, you're forgetting like the Saints have a mid quarter, but I mean, Derek Carr is like the ultimate mid quarterback, right?
He's
Like
kind of, yeah, he would
yeah,
be on
like a
this list if it was the other way around, right?
yeah, exactly. So it's not like you're coming at those mid quarterbacks with Patrick Mahomes on your side. And I'll be honest, I would probably rather have a lot of those quarterbacks over Derek Carr on that list. Like I would take Daniel Jones over Derek Carr. I would take all the rookie quarterbacks you said, Anthony Richardson, Stroud, and Bryce Young over Derek Carr. So yeah, but the Saints are an interesting team. They have a really good defense. They have the pieces in Chris Olave, Alvin Kamara. They have the weapons. Just for whatever reason, the last few years, like once Sean Payton left, it just hasn't been the same organization. So Yeah, they're just kind of like a dumpster fire waiting to happen. The Saints.
I just feel like when they got Carr, and this is also something that's subjective to you, right? Like you feel completely different than I do about Carr. I think mid is I think mid is like the floor for him, but I think he has something, dude. Like I don't think he was the sole reason why the Raiders struggled last year. Like I've talked about it.
No, I wouldn't say that either. But at the same time, that was probably the best team he's been a quarterback for, and he didn't have a great you give him. I don't think he's the best wide receiver, but a lot of people think Devontae Adams is the best wide receiver. You know, they had the college connection. That's all we heard about. And he was as mid as he could be last year with Devontae Adams and the most like Josh Jacobs. Didn't Josh Jacobs lead the league in rushing last year?
Yeah, I changed his whole season around because I came on here and I said that he was terrible and he was trash. And Antoine, who's our head audio guy here at the studio, was just shaking his head. And then from then on, he just like led the league in rushing. So whatever his contract is gonna be, bro, I think he needs to like take us out to dinner because I changed the trajectory of his career.
Yeah, I don't know if he'll take you out to dinner for that, but maybe. But yeah, so I mean that like even looking at that, right? Like he had the best running back in the NFL last year. You know, the best wide receiver in the NFL last year, and he's mid. So you know, you put him on the Saints. Like, what more can you expect from Derek Carr?
Did you cut out?
No, I just said, what more can you
Oh,
expect
oh.
from Derek Carr? You know, like it's not like you're gonna get an MVP caliber season out of the guy.
Yeah. No, it's fair, man. But I'm just buying into a new place for him. He is going to a team that I don't want to say was a quarterback away, nowhere near that. But I think changes scenery for him. It ended horribly in a place that he really liked playing for. And they have the pieces. They definitely have the pieces in New Orleans. And their defense too, I think, gets severely slept on because of how bad the offense was for them last year. A team, Kenny,
Uh,
who's what's
Hold on,
up?
before we pass, I was gonna say the one thing that I think, like, you know, you look at a lot of these teams that give out these contracts to the running backs, like that contract to Kamara is severely handicapping them. You know what I mean? Like a lot of these teams who end up paying big money to these running backs, they kind of shoot their franchise in the foot the next 3, 4, 5 years down the line because you can get a running back that's going to give you the same type of output in the last round of the NFL draft and pay them league minimum, right? Like we've seen how the NFL has changed over the last few seasons, like offensive line, defensive line, quarterback, those, cornerback. Like those are the positions you got to invest your money in, not running back.
I mean, dude, you're talking to someone who is probably the president of not paying your running back club. Like I just
Yeah.
don't.
So how do you?
It just doesn't.
Well,
It doesn't go well. And I know you're gonna ask me about Saquon, right?
yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
Don't. I wouldn't pay him. Give him the franchise. He wants to play on that. Cool. If not, peace, man. Look, Buffalo. The regime that is now running the Giants is the same one that helped build the Bills. And
Right.
look what they've done. They've been very productive with not much at running back, dude. Devin Singletary, congrats. Enjoy that. Right? Like that's not their MO. And you look at the history of the league. The only time paying your running back works is when you have an elite quarterback under a rookie contract. That's the only time where you could be like, yo, you know what, man? I don't know if I want to pay Saquon $20 million a year, but I got Daniel Jones on a rookie contract for 3 more years. Like that works. Like, look at what the Bengals did. Bengals paid Joe Mixon. I mean, Kamara's a better running back, but like Joe Mixon got the bag. It's because they're not paying Joe Burrow yet. They're not paying the wide receiver money yet. So you can allocate your money that way to that position. But you saw what Carolina did. They paid McCaffrey, and then they couldn't wait to get rid of him. They're like, yo, a third-round pick? Sure, no problem. Here, just take him. Get him off our books. And it's the one position in sports, dude, that I'm the most hypocritical about because from a player standpoint, bro, hold out, get your money because they run you to the dirt and then they get rid of you. We've seen it happen all the time. But from a fan standpoint, I wouldn't want my team to pay a running back. Never. Nah. Get him on a rookie deal, 3-4 years, let him be someone else's problem. You know who does that great? The Steelers. Steelers did that with Le'Veon Bell. Yeah, we'll pay you. No problem. We'll pay you. Here's the franchise tag. You don't want to play? All right, cool. Sit out for a year. Now you're the Jets' problem. That's
I
just
think
the nature of the beast.
Le'Veon probably would have gotten paid had he not kept getting suspended for weed. Because you got to, dude, at that point in time, Le'Veon Bell was different.
He was. He was. No,
Yeah,
for
he was
sure. For
different.
sure. He was
For like
like,
that 2 3 year run, he was on another level.
yeah, he was that guy. But also, he elected to sit out because he was still under contract with the Steelers, but it was the last year of his deal. And they say, like, yo, we'll franchise you at the end. And he was like, nah, fuck that. I'm going to just sit. I'm going to make a mixtape. Sits out a year, and then he comes back and he goes to the Jets, and it was just a nightmare from the beginning. So it's weird, man. I wouldn't want to pay a running back. Everyone knows this. They are, in some instances, they are very valuable, but eventually it handicaps your team, like how this conversation started with Kamara and the Saints. Is there another team that you want to know a little bit about their schedule?
Yeah, what is the Ravens schedule looking like? That's another team I like this year.
So the Ravens, the more I'm looking at the Ravens, bro, I like your call more about Lamar for MVP than I do the outlook of them as a team. Does that make sense?
No, because if Lamar has an MVP year, how do you not like the outlook of the Ravens? Because if Lamar has an MVP year, he's doing similar things to what he did his first MVP season, and the Ravens are just a yeah. No. If Lamar has an MVP season, the Ravens are a scary team this year.
They're a scary team until it comes to January. So that's where I would be. That's why I'm for Lamar for MVP. I think this is gonna be the best offensive team he's ever had in Baltimore with the additions that they made. Even if we don't know what's gonna happen with Odell, what he's gonna look like. But the one thing that I find interesting about the Ravens, dude, and this has something to do with the schedule, is no team has had more guys miss games in the last 2 seasons than the Baltimore Ravens. Like 2 years ago, I coined it the year from hell, where like everybody was getting banged up, even Lamar Jackson got hurt. And then last year it continued. Like usually you'll have that one season, bro, where like everything goes to shit and guys are just hurt. And then the next year it doesn't happen. But like for the Ravens, it happened again. Like only 3 other teams had more starters on their 53-man roster miss more games than the Ravens. And this is back-to-back years that this happens. But the one thing about the Ravens schedule that I find fascinating is that it's a balance of, holy shit, this is going to be a tough stretch, and then it's going to ease up. But until it eases up, you got Browns, Bengals, Rams, at Jaguars, at Niners, Miami, and the Steelers. That's a tough stretch right there for the Baltimore Ravens, Kenny.
Cakewalk.
Cakewalk?
Yeah. Man. Like, look what Lamar Jackson's done the last 3 4 whatever years with the cart boys at Walmart he's throwing the ball to. Now he's got actually good weapons to give the ball to. Yeah, I just like the Ravens this year. I think they, like I said last week too, I think they win the division. I think Lamar, him and Justin Herbert are probably my 2 picks for MVP. And I'm very high on both those teams this year. I think, obviously hopefully the injury luck kind of regresses back to the mean where things usually go. I don't anticipate, but you can't account for injuries. But I don't think they should have, again, as bad of misfortunes as they've had the last few years. Like that's unprecedented how many starters they've missed over the last 2 seasons. And then you're big on this, the 1-score games. Like look at last season, the Ravens could have easily started the year off like 5-0, 6-0, but they blew a huge lead to the Dolphins. They blew a huge lead to the Bills. I forget who the other team they blew a big lead to was, but they blew like 3 big leads early on in the year that pretty much changed their whole season. Like if they don't lose those games, obviously who knows how the Lamar Jackson situation plays out, but they're probably a better seed come playoff time. The outlook for them to get to the Super Bowl if Lamar plays is probably a lot stronger. Maybe he says, screw the contract, I'm going to play. We speculating. Who knows how it would have played out? But I think the Ravens bounce back this year.
Bro, you mentioned that Miami game that they blew a lead to. I had the Ravens plus 3.5, minus 3.5 that game. And you know how I tell you how I have that one friend in my friend group that anytime he tells me a bet, I feel really good about it when I'm on the other side. He's like, yo, right. Miami's a lock. Miami's a lock. And the Ravens were up like 28 points in the fourth quarter. Anytime you hear biggest comeback victory ever, like, bro, don't hold that over me, all right? That shit has never happened, never will happen again. And the whole game, I didn't say anything because, we've been doing this for so long. We know that it's never over until it's over. But I didn't get a single text during that game. And then at the end, when the Dolphins came back and won, he just sends me a wink face. And I said a lot of things that I can't repeat on a public forum, but I was going off on him. I was like, bro, you have some set of balls to hit me up after you just heard no team has ever scored more points in NFL history than the fourth quarter. So you brought up some bad memories, bro.
No, yeah, I had him that game too. I had a money line. I think it was like the next week or 2 weeks later against the Bills, and they were up huge in that game too. Terrible clock management at the end by Harbaugh. They missed. I think they had the ball on the goal line. They don't. I remember they went for a touchdown rather than take the field goal. They end up trying to go for a touchdown, but they end up losing that game too. So yeah, they fumbled the bag a couple times last year for me.
The last team I want to mention that is a popular team from a betting standpoint, a fan base standpoint, and one who saw their win total go from 10 wins last year to 11.5 wins this year. And I can't quite figure it out why people are so excited for this team. I mean, their roster is really good, but the uncertainty at the most important position for the San Francisco 49ers, it's wild to me. And the Niners, we don't know who QB1 is going to be for week 1. And their schedule, they're the first team, Kenny, who they started doing we're going to play 2 games in the East Coast. Let's just stay in the East Coast. Like Kyle Shanahan's, him and McVay, they come from the same coaching tree. They were the first ones to say, oh, if you're a West Coast team, you're going out East back-to-back games on the road. Why don't you just stay out there? Well, the issue this year is that they have 3 sets of back-to-back road games, and none of them are in the same time zone. So usually where San Francisco would stay out East, Kenny, they're not going to be able to do that. So they'll have to go, to Florida, and then the next week they'll have to go to Texas. Like the schedule is a little wacky. They didn't get any good benefits from the schedule makers. And starting off right now, dude, you ready for this one? You know how we do Monday winners on the show?
Yep.
How about a May winner from now? A May Monday winner for you for the regular season. You ready?
What do we got?
Steelers plus 3.5 against San Francisco.
When is that game? Like week 1 or?
Week 1, Pittsburgh is at home, catching 3.5.
Yeah, and that's a good bet, definitely. Usually those 3.5, 3.5, 3 points, 5.5 points on any primetime game. Usually the sharp side is always the dog. I'm not high on the Niners at all. I haven't been high on the Niners for the last few years. I was kind of fading them towards the end of last year. I didn't think Brock Purdy was going to keep the run that he was on going, but he kept it going for a little bit. I think the Seahawks win that division, honestly. I like the Seahawks a lot this year.
Seahawks have a brutal 3-game stretch starting Thanksgiving against the Niners. Then they got trips to Dallas and then a rematch with the 49ers. So a rare 2 games in 3 weeks against the same opponent. That's going to be one that might decide a lot of things for that division and for both teams. And also Seahawks, one of the most improved teams from one year to another, going from 5.5 projected wins last year to now 8.5 wins for Seattle. And you think Seattle could win that division, Kenny?
Yeah, I like the Seahawks a lot. I think Geno Smith, wildly underrated. Obviously, didn't have the great start to his career. Took a little bit to get his footing in, but in the NFL. But in college, elite quarterback. We saw what he did last year, right? He has DK Metcalf. He still has Tyler Lockett. The Seahawks had a great draft. The running back last year, Kenneth Walker, he was I think he did win Offensive Rookie of the Year, right? Oh, no. The wide receiver and from the Jets ended up
Garrett
winning
Wilson.
But at one point, Kenneth Walker was the favorite to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. So they have a very good young core. I'm big on Pete Carroll as a head coach. Obviously made one of the worst play calls in the history of the game in the biggest moment. But as a coach, he's a really good coach. He gets those guys fired up, ready to play all the time. I'm big on the Seahawks this year. I think we can make some good money betting them in the right spots this year.
I love that. They are plus 260 to win the NFC West, minus $1.75 for the San Francisco 49ers. So that's going to be fun to monitor. Before we wrap up, is there another team that you're a little excited about or curious about?
What, in the NFL?
Yeah.
Not really. I mean, I don't buy too much into, because like I've talked to you before, I'm not a huge futures better. At least preseason. Like I like to wait to midseason, see if there's any good spots I can attack to get some good value on futures. So I don't really buy into a lot of like the schedule stuff. I start right now. It's baseball season. I'm in such a groove
The
on
boy's
baseball,
hot.
man.
The boy's hot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's definitely been one of the best starts to a baseball season for me. Um, to put it in perspective, since May started alone, I'm up over 40 units. So if you're following my bets, $100 better is up over $4,000 just in 2 weeks into May. So it's been a good run for sure.
Let's get it, bro. Let's get it. Before
What do you
we,
think of the NBA?
yeah. So that's what I wanted to get into. At the time
Roll your thunder.
at the time we're recording, it's before the two conference finals kick off. We got Seattle and Miami. Sorry, the Celtics in Miami. I said Seattle as I was looking at the Seahawks futures here that I had.
You're like, how much money am I about to put on this Seahawks bet right now? That's what you're thinking.
Nah,
I see
yeah,
that. I see the wheels turning in the head.
a little bit,
I know that
man.
look.
I mean, I'm definitely not betting the Niners. That's a given. And I mean, we don't know who the quarterback's going to be in Arizona until maybe November. And the Rams, the Rams did well for me. All right, the Rams when they won the Super Bowl, they did well for me. But I think Seattle is definitely the one there. But we got the Heat and the Celtics. Heat plus 425 to win this series. Is that wild, Kenny? I think that's wild, bro.
Pretty wild.
Yeah.
Pretty disrespectful. Yeah, because the Heat. But here's the thing: the Heat should not be an 8 seed, right? Like because of these playing games, now teams can coast a little more and they can rest guys, and like the Heat are not a true 8 seed. Like I'm a Knicks fan, but the Knicks are not a. There should have never been a better seed than the Heat. The Nets should not have been a better seed than the Heat. Just shouldn't have worked out that way, but it did. Yeah, plus 425 is crazy.
Yeah, that one jumped out to me. I thought that was nuts, especially with the Heat being so experienced. This isn't their first time there. They've been here so many times. I think it's the 7th conference finals in the last 12 years for Spoelstra. He's entering rare air there in Miami and what he's done with the Heat. And you're right, dude. Like this is the third time in 5 seasons that this is the conference finals. This was the conference finals last year also. They're at one apiece between the two of them. And I think Butler is going to be a lot for them to handle, dude. And I know Tatum is coming off the wild 50 burger that he put up in game 7. But, bro, I was talking about it last week, man, how even in game 6, dude, in game 6, he had 2 points at halftime. And then he went bananas in the fourth quarter. So from the fourth quarter of game 6 and then all through game 7, dude has like close to 70 points he scored. But the issue that I have with Tatum, bro, is that he disappears in big spots for a good amount. Like in a must-win game, game 6 on the road, you only have 2 points at halftime. Like that stuff scares me, Kenny.
Yeah, but I think he's like one of those players. He's so efficient that like you sometimes don't even realize he's like that he's going off, right? Like he's just so smooth and he's like a different type of player. He's not like a Russell Westbrook or or Steph Curry. Like when Steph Curry's going off, like the place is going crazy. He's doing the spin around threes. Like Jason Tatum's just like a silent assassin. Like he's a killer out there on the court. But yeah, I think plus 425 is disrespectful. I like the Heat there.
Yeah, I like the Heat there too, man. I just think that you're right, that they're not. That's why a couple weeks ago I was talking about this too. Like, does seeding even matter anymore? Like you said, Miami's not an 8 seed. Miami's really like a top 4 seed. So
yeah, exactly.
That's why if you're just betting the number blindly, and look, we got to mention, man, that Miami flew. They're going to be going down to South Beach. They're going to be there for a couple days. That's something to definitely factor in. And Miami's a team who they get it from a lot of different places, and now those guys are not there for the first time. And I think that's something that's very important. And it's going to be fascinating to watch. And I think there's a massive coaching advantage for the Heat in this one. Like, I don't even think that's debatable.
It was pretty funny. And I wish I had known this before this year. Like I'm not like super tuned into the NBA to like stay on top of these things, but like Eric Spoelstra never has won Coach of the Year, just beat in back to back series guys who have won Coach of the Year like awards. Like it, if you didn't think Spoelstra was coming into those series like knowing those things, like like chip on the shoulder type stuff, you're crazy. Yeah, huge coaching advantage. And then you're right. You look at the Celtics, like they're so reliant on Tatum and Jaylen Brown that when they go up against a team like the Heat, who are a little bit more deep and kind of spread out about where the production comes from, like Jimmy Butler can pretty much cancel out a Jason Tatum, right? Like they can kind of go tit for tat and kind of cancel each other out there. So then it's pretty, can the role players on Miami, are they going to make their shots? I think missing Tyler Hero in this series might come into play. I think it might be a little bigger for them, but yeah, I think at those numbers, I like the Heat.
Yeah, the Heat at 4-1 for sure. I'm definitely gonna. I've already taken it. Nothing crazy, but I've taken that. I just think it should be closer to like plus 225, not plus 425. And look, man, game 3 is going to be on a Sunday night in South Beach. That means that they're going to get there Saturday night. And they ain't going to be in the hotel, bro. There's a lot of cool things to do in Miami. They're going to get distracted.
That's a money spot, and I know me and you will be on that. If the Celtics are up 2-0 going into that game 3, man, that is a mortgage type play on the Heat. Like you said, up 2-0, the young Celtics are coming to South Beach. They're celebrating, probably going to 11-11 or whatever the hell the fucking club is in Miami, and they're going crazy. So the Heat will be such a lock in that situation. I hope we get it.
Oh, dude, we're running out of time to bet the spot. That first half spot in game 3, the whole game in game 3, like those are some of my favorite spots to bet on. And the place that you're referring to is called 11 in Miami. Great establishment. We'll leave that at that and save that conversation for off the record. Let's go over to the West, man. I'm currently holding a 15-1 Lakers future. I feel really good about it. Am I crazy that I'm happy that they played the Nuggets and not the Suns? That's what I've been asking everyone. People think that I'm crazy for asking for this.
Nah, yeah, you're crazy because the Nuggets are them. Like they're a very, very good team. Like before the Nuggets actually on Moxie Bets, the Nuggets were my pick to win it all this year, like preseason. So it's crazy that here they are. I look like a genius, right? Unfortunately, I didn't bet that one myself, but no, yeah, the Nuggets are legit. And then when you look at the home court advantage of playing in Denver at that altitude and having such a deep roster, they have the home court advantage for them is like there's nowhere else in the NBA that has that type of edge, right? That being said, though, I'm not betting against King James here, right? Are you? Like the NBA would love nothing more than LeBron James to be in the finals again.
Oh yeah, and I think it's funny how we get deja vu from the bubble. These 4 teams once again, and people were shitting on the bubble, so it's almost poetic justice that these are the 4 teams again. And I think the storylines are going to be captivating, right? Miami versus the Lakers. You got LeBron against Spoelstra once again, the team that helped propel him into the conversation to be one of the best players of all time. And then, I mean, what they would really want, like if you're into like the NBA script or this shit is rigged, you should bet the Lakers and the Celtics because what's bigger than that? That's the premier rivalry in the NBA. Like, dude, my dad was watching that shit in Greece on like tape delay. Like that's why he likes the Lakers. That's his squad, and this would be so iconic to have the Celtics and LeBron play each other.
So now let me take that train of thought a little step further, right? About the NBA script. So the NBA, I think it was maybe ABC or I don't know, I forget what place was airing it, where they had like the NBA Finals like preview or something, and the NBA like tidbit at the bottom. It was like little like facts about the NBA. It was like Lakers and Celtics have both won 17 NBA championships, right? So if we get Lakers Celtics, which team is going to win 18 first? That's 1. 2, Ruffles. You know how they put the NBA players on the bags, Ruffles? They came out with bags with Jason Tatum, bags with LeBron James. Hey, maybe it means nothing, but Ruffles, huge sponsor of the NBA. Like the NBA of all sports, man, especially with the refs, the NBA is so fixed. So fixed. Almost as bad as boxing. You see that's the boxing stoppage this weekend of the Rolly Romero fight?
Bro, listen. Combat sports are going through it, bro. Some of these decisions, dude, What about the Kim and Bohm fight in the UFC?
Oh, yeah, that was
Like,
nuts, dude.
bro, Kim trains over at Syndicate, so I've seen her a bunch of times there, and I know a lot of people from the gym are like rooting for her, obviously. But man,
Right.
like that fight was like, dude. First of all, I've never seen a point deduction after the bell, and then I've never seen a fight get called, and then you have another point deduction. It's like, bro, that's where shit gets really suspect when it's the officiate. Like, I think the bigger problem is always going to be the officiating and the judging than it would be the player or the fighter throwing a fight, because that's where you could really, like, we saw Donaghy, right? There's a Netflix special on it. Like, that dude was able to alter so many things. And bro, even Scott Foster, like, so many of my buddies bet the Knicks money line. I did too. Bet the Knicks money line because Miami's 0-10 on the money line in playoff games that Scott Foster referees, but then they're like
Right.
1-9 against the spread. So what I did was uh, I took the Knicks on the money line, and then I took the points plus 6.5. They ended up covering. They lost the game outright, but it's just like, yo, when you have those numbers so alarming and in your face, it's so shady, bro. Chris Paul like never wins when Scott Foster is the playoff referee too. It's unbelievable, man. But that dude, Tony Weeks, I think is the ref that you're referring to. Like,
Yeah, right.
man, that's when you just go in for business for yourself, man. And people do not pay to see the refs. They don't pay to see the judges. And unfortunately, in combat sports, that's an issue across all combat sports. And when it's magnified on a main event, that's when you have the conversation like this being surfaced.
What do you think about like my buddy Francis Marshall, right? The kid from New Jersey was undefeated fighter, fought a couple weeks ago,
I was there.
closed the fight as a minus 1400
Yeah.
favorite, bro. And if you watch that fight, there's no way you can tell me that he didn't win that fight. And then the judges, I don't know what they were smoking when they when they said that he lost that fight, but like there has to be some sort of, you can't have the odds saying one thing when the odds makers are like some of the smartest people on the planet, especially when it comes to sports, right? And then have an outcome that's complete 180 the other direction. Like that just doesn't make sense. You can't have someone close a minus 1400 favorite, which is implied probability of what, like 90 something percent probably, and he loses the fight. Craziness, crazy.
Bro, I mean, it happens so much. That's why I think those live odds are very misleading. Very misleading, dude. And it's so unfortunate that sometimes that does happen, because going back to UFC London, when Roman Dolidze, they flashed the graphic and he's minus 800 halfway through the third round, and then he loses to Vittori. You're like, wait, what? How? Like, it was crazy. With Francis Marshall, I was at the Apex for the first time. Shouts to John Orlando. He brought me over there. And I went to use the bathroom after the fight because I was sitting next to him. I was like, oh, yo, Francis got this. Like, no question. I didn't even bet it, right? Because, like, dude, sometimes, like, you're a little biased because you've bet on it and you're like, nah, my guy won. I got, this shit is rigged. Like, we all have friends like that, right? And you see it on social media all the time. But, like, I just left to go, like, use the bathroom. I come back and I was like, yo, Francis really lost? He's like, yeah. I was like, that's crazy. It's nuts,
Nuts, man. Nuts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
That was sickening. That fight. That was sickening. Yeah. Especially like I had just done the Instagram live with him. I felt some sort of connection to him. He was a super nice kid, super humble, and for him to get robbed like that, especially like you obviously I'm not in MMA, but I have a lot of friends who are professional fighters and whatnot. But you doing it yourself, like you see firsthand how hard these guys fucking work, man. Like these guys sacrifice a lot. A lot of these guys work jobs and then go train. Like these guys put a lot into it. And to have someone who, is on the come up, he's in the UFC, an undefeated fighter, and then you strip that from him, like he can never get that back. You know what I mean? Like that's fucked up.
Yeah, man, it's so unfortunate. And the one thing that's cool about Dana White, and he didn't do it in this fight in particular, and he didn't do it with my buddy Jared too, which if I ever get a chance to talk to him, I'll be like, yo, maybe you could throw that 40K to Jared for the win bonus. But when you have the judges make a decision in a fight and it's so controversial, dude, you're taking away someone's win bonus. That's like, listen, man, I mean, 25K is 25K for anybody, but like, bro, 25K for some of these dudes that got to go and like work at the grocery store, or they're doing all this other shit while training. that's a mortgage on a house for the year or some shit. Like, that's a lot of money, man. And when there's a controversial decision, I just feel like the organization should step in and be like, yo, man, I don't know what these three guys saw, but here, let's give you a little kickback. Let's at least pay you for the win bonus, even though you lost, when the whole world is saying that was a dumb decision and it was consensus. And that's how I would approach it if I was them. But also then you open up a can of worms of like, well then what are the judges for then? Like, do they even matter? Like, it's so much weird shit that goes down with it. But I agree with you, man. It's very controversial and it's always going to be an issue until it gets fixed.
Do you think they'll ever have like open scoring? Like, there's no reason why fans and fighters shouldn't know what the score is going into the last round. It's just, if anything, you would get a better product because the guy who knows he's losing is going to come out in that last round and go balls to the wall, like foot on the gas, and not let up.
It's the only sport we consume where we don't know the score. We just assume it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Right? Every other game, like
Yeah.
every other sporting event, it's like, yo, bro, we're down 2 goals. It's the 90th minute. Or, yo, we're down 8 with 4 minutes left. In MMA, it's like, we'll see. I've had Eric Nixick on the show, and he's the head coach over at Extreme Couture. I'm like, dude, what's it feel like when you're in the octagon and you don't know what the decision is, right? Like, it's one of those razor thin fights. He's like, yo, bro, the only comparison I can make it to is like when my wife was pregnant and I just was in the room and like I didn't know what to do. Like, do I help? Do I not help? Like, I just felt helpless. And that's how fighters feel. That's how coaches feel. They're like, I think we won. Maybe we won. I don't know. It's like you just never know. And it's so gut wrenching, man. You could just tell the adrenaline dump when they don't hear their name called. It's one of the most fascinating visuals when it's like you hear the one fighter's name and then you hear the other fighter's name, so you know a split is coming. Like, yo, pay attention to that third name that comes up. Oh, it's devastating, bro.
Trust me, bro. You should have seen me the night of the Aljamain fight against Cejudo. Bro.
Oh, yeah.
One, I had a lot of money on Aljo. I sent out a 10-unit play to my clients. It's only the third 10-unit play I've ever sent out since I've been selling picks. But personally, I know you and I talked a little bit about it. I thought Aljo dominated that fight. I thought he was a clear winner. I don't think it should have been a split personally, but man, when they say Cejudo and then Sterling, man, my stomach just dropped. My asshole was like this. I'm like, dude, don't. I was like, bro, don't you screw me now, because this was like a couple weeks after the Francis Marshall fight. So at this point, I have in the back of my head, like, bro, no matter what I just saw, it doesn't matter. It's whatever these judges want to happen is going to happen here in this outcome here. So, like, it doesn't matter what I just watched for 25 minutes. It's whatever these guys want and what's going to benefit the organization the most. Which is one of the reasons why I bet Sterling. I just thought that it was better for the UFC if he won, honestly.
Man, listen, there's a lot of people that feel like you, bro. There's a lot of people that feel like you. Now, whenever there's like a Sean O'Malley fight, people are like, yo, it's going to be, got to bet on O'Malley because if it goes to decision, maybe the UFC wants it to happen. This dude, Ian Gary, over the weekend, too, he seems to be pretty marketable. He's the up-and-coming 170er. He's Irish also, so he has that, like, Conor aura to him. It's going to be fun, man, over the next couple of months in the UFC, but it's always going to have the controversial decisions and outcomes that we're going to see in combat sports. But, Kenny, I want to put a bow on this episode by saying thank you for joining us, as always. My guy, Kenny Bets Big. Where can they follow you if they aren't already on social media?
Just hit me up at Kenny Bets Big. Socials, Instagram, Twitter. That's pretty much it.
As far as I go, at Nick Day is 10 as you can find me, veteransminimum.com as you can find all things VM. Be on the lookout for the merch store. Support the Patreon at patreon.com. We'll catch you guys later this week on VM.